Today, we are getting into something really powerful. It's Joshua Burraway's book, Becoming Somebody Else. And this is so much more than a typical study. It's a deep, deep dive into the hidden world of London's homeless population, looking at the raw reality of addiction, of survival, and what it even means to be a self. Okay, let's get into it.
So to really get the world that Burraway is showing us, you first have to understand just how thin the line is between having a home and having nothing at all. And the best way to do that is to start with one man's story. 2 millimeters. Think about that. That's about the thickness of a house key. This quote introduces us to a man named Lenny, and his entire life fell apart because of that tiny piece of metal. It's just a brutal reminder that homelessness often isn't some slow decline. It can be a sudden, catastrophic drop. So how does something like this even happen? Well, it's a domino effect, really. First, the unimaginable happens. His long-term partner, Christy, dies from a sudden heart attack. Now, because they never had a formal rental agreement, Lenny had zero legal claim to the home they'd shared for 10 years. The property then goes to Christy's estranged daughter who, without saying a word, just changes the locks. And that's it. 4 quick steps, and a home becomes a locked door. Lenny is on the street.
You know, losing his home was just the first step. The street introduced a whole new level of horror, this profound, soul-crushing dehumanization. Lenny's words right here, they capture that brutal reality of no longer being seen as a person, but as an object. It's a complete and shocking loss of dignity, of identity.
Lenny's story, as tragic as it is not unique. He and many others like him find some kind of refuge, some kind of community, in a small public park in East London. But this isn't just a park, it's a place with a complicated and deeply conflicted identity.
Okay, so what's fascinating here is that this park basically has 2 different identities. Officially, it's Altab Ali Park. It's a memorial for a young Bengali man who was murdered in a racist attack back in the 70s. So it's a place of political history and activism. But for the people who actually live there, the homeless residents, it's Itchy Park. And that name speaks to a totally different reality, one of addiction, survival, and the unwritten, harsh rules of the street.
And the names really tell the story of London's East End. In the 60s, you had Itchy Park, from pop culture, tied to all the post-war bomb sites and stinging nettles. Then, after the tragic murder of Altab Ali, it's officially renamed in his honor. But today, the homeless community calls it Itchy Park, a name that echoes this really long history of poverty and displacement.
So why is a place like Itchy Park so vital? Well, to get that, we have to talk about the single biggest struggle of life on the streets. And it's not just about finding food or a place to sleep. It's about time itself.
The term Burraway uses to describe this is existential torment. And when you break it down, you see why. It's everything, all at once. The exhaustion, the pain, the constant harassment, the isolation. And then there's the one thing we never really think about, just relentless, crushing boredom. It's an absolutely unbearable way to exist with no end in sight.
And that brings us right back to Lenny. What he says here is so important. For him and for so many others, drinking isn't just about feeding an addiction. It's a tool. It is a way to kill the time, to escape the situation, even if it's just for a little while. Substance use becomes a survival strategy. And the cost of this situation, it's just staggering. 30 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the average amount of life a person loses when they experience homelessness. And the #1 cause of death is drug and alcohol-related complications. The stakes are literally life and death. So this desperate need to escape that existential torment leads to a very specific and I think widely misunderstood phenomenon. It's something that is at the absolute heart of Burraway's work. It's called the blackout. Now, a blackout is not what most of us think it is. It's basically a state of temporary, chemically induced amnesia. The person is awake, they are up, they're walking, they're talking, interacting with the world, but their brain is just not recording any of it.
And this distinction is absolutely critical. See, passing out is about unconsciousness. Your body literally shuts down. But blacking out, that's about amnesia. Your brain fails to record what's happening. So you don't have a gap in consciousness, you have a giant, terrifying gap in your memory.
And this right here is the core of Burraway's whole argument. He says we shouldn't see the blackout as just some accidental side effect of drinking too much. No, we should see it as a deliberate, purposeful act. It's a desperate, destructive ritual to escape what he calls a crisis of presence, which is just the unbearable weight of your own existence in that moment.
But what happens when you actually manage to escape yourself? This trip into nothingness, it fractures your memory, your sense of who you are from one day to the next. You don't just lose time,
You risk, quite literally, becoming somebody else.
So how can we possibly understand what this feels like from the inside? Well, Burraway shows us through the incredible artwork of a man named Jay, who is a resident of Itchy Park. And Jay's art is so important to this story that it's right there on the cover of the book, giving us a direct window into this fragmented world.
One of his paintings is called Lost Time. The book describes it as a way of seeing the gaps a blackout leaves behind. Imagine your memory is like a block of Swiss cheese. The blackout just eats away at it, leaving these huge, terrifying holes where hours or even days of your life are just gone. You know you were alive, but you have no idea what you did. And then another piece, called Booth, takes it a step further. It's a painting of the somebody else who takes over during the blackout. It's this ghostly alter ego who lives through those missing hours. And whatever they did, whatever they said, it's a total mystery to you when you come back.
So that's the bottom line. The price for escaping an unbearable present is that yourself gets shattered into pieces. Your own life becomes a story with missing chapters. And those chapters were written by a total stranger who just happens to be you.
And that leaves us with this really profound and unsettling question. Burraway's work forces us to ask, if our memories are the threads that weave our identity together, what happens when those threads are just gone? Who are we then? What's left?